resistance.
Huh.
So a lot of you guys are probably wondering, what build was I running in that gameplay? Well, we were running the new AR, the Kingbreaker, and this thing is an absolute monster, guys. I am in love with this, and I've been running it with my spotter build in conflict, and I'm telling you, this build shreds all of those Heartbreaker builds, because the problem is with Heartbreaker, you have to build a stack, and if you can't build a stack, you run into a lot of issues, especially in conflict, because there just aren't NPCs for you to build your stack off. If you're not building it off of players, most likely a lot of those engagements are medium to long range. And when you try to build up those stacks, if you're fighting somebody who has high DPS spotter builds, you're gonna run into some issues. And you guys see, I was literally shredding. I have not had any issues at all with pretty much any Heartbreaker build, unless they have max stacks and somehow they build it off of somebody. So this build is definitely centered around the Kingbreaker and the Talent Closer, and we'll be doing a full build breakdown. So let's dive into it and let's talk about how I have this build set up. So for the weapon, we are using the Kingbreaker. It has 123,000 damage on this build, 650 RPM, 50 round mag, assault rifle damage, health damage, and damage to targets out of cover. Now, why it's so good is because it does have a talent called Perfect Flatline. It amplifies weapon damage by 20% to pulse enemies after 2 kills. It applies pulse to the next enemy you hit. Now, we do have a C79 scope for the 5% crit chance, a sturdy extended mag with 20 round mag. We have that link laser pointer, which is clutch, especially if you want to not have to use a pulse. And then we do have a critical hit chance muzzle. For the chest, we're running the Closer, which is the chest that comes with Perfect Spotter. You can see we have 5% total armor on here just from the one piece. We have armor rolls on here, critical hit damage, critical hit chance, and then a critical hit damage mod. And what does Perfect Spotter do? It increases total weapon damage and skill damage by 20% to pulse enemies. And I believe this should say amplifies just like regular spotter, but this chest piece allows you to hit a lot harder on your build than typically what you see on my last pulse build. Now for the mask, we are running the Cheska mask with 10% critical hit chance. We have weapon damage, critical hit chance, and a critical hit damage mod on here. For the holster, we have a Fender's holster with 10% assault rifle damage, weapon damage, critical hit damage, and a critical hit chance. Now for the knee pads, we are running the Fox Pair knee pads, a meta piece with weapon damage, damage to targets out of cover, and critical hit damage. For the gloves, we have the Contractor gloves with armor, damage to armor, and critical hit damage. You definitely want to have 2 pieces with armor on this build. And last but not least, we have the Grupo Sombra backpack with 15% critical hit damage, weapon damage, critical chance, critical damage, and a critical hit damage mod on here. And then obviously we have Vigilance, increased total weapon damage by 25%. Anytime we do take damage, it disables this buff for 4 seconds. But this is actually an amazing piece to put on a spotter build, because all that damage, weapon damage, just destroys enemies. Now we are sitting at 1.1 million armor, 330,000 health, For the skills, the Defender drone seems like the go-to skill item in Conflict. It kind of replaced the old shield, and obviously we have the decoy. This allows us to sneak up on enemies, but I will tell you guys, if an enemy finds this and they do have the Heartbreaker set, they can build their stack off of that. So be very careful when using this skill. It can backfire on you pretty quick. As I said at the very beginning, we are using the specialization, the Technician, for this Link laser pointer. What it does is Technician laser pointer that pulses target at which it's aimed. So anytime we aim at an enemy, that enemy will be pulsed. And then if we dive into the stats, you'll see we have 54% crit chance, 168% crit damage, 75% headshot damage, 8% armor damage. We also have 20% health damage, and we have 18% damage to targets out of cover, sitting at 1.1 million armor. And can you imagine when we finally level up each one of these pieces, we can actually gain armor on top of the armor we have. So sitting at 1.1 armor actually looks pretty impressive. And a lot of you guys might have seen my last spotter build, and it resembles a lot, right? But the big changes on this one is I switched out the holster. I had an improvised holster before, decided to go with the Fenris holster. And then with the chest piece, I went with the new brand set that gives me perfect spotter, and that is called Closer. Now with the old build, I actually ran the improvised holster and I ran a Fenris chest piece, and it just had regular spotter. Now to the chest, it surprised me that one actually hit harder with just regular spotter by 1,000, but then once you did the headshot, you were actually hitting 7,000 harder with this build. So it really just depends on what you guys really feel you hit more with. I think the extra 7,000 to the head makes a huge difference in PvP. And then obviously the 1,000 to the body, if all you do is hit body shots in PvP, well then that might be the better way for you. What I will do is I will put a link to the old build and then obviously this build, so that way you guys can decide what build works best for you. And it seems like in Conflict, you're gonna see a lot of Heartbreaker sets, and I will tell you, you shouldn't have any issue, especially if you fight the way I fight with this build. So if you guys are just taking notes on how I'm doing, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys will do perfectly fine. Let me know in the comments, what is your go-to Conflict build? Prior to Title Update 15, I was actually running an Intimidate 1.7 million armor build with Adrenaline Rush, and I just feel like it doesn't hit as hard because of the Intimidate. But at the moment, the Kingbreaker and Perfect Spotter are the go-tos, at least for me. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys in the next one. If you enjoyed the video, leave a thumbs up. Hey, Nothing But Skills out. Take it easy, everybody.